I'm going to show you a beginner's friendly macrame plant holder. I watched marchingnorth.com create this design. I simplified it. If this is the first time I'm making it, so if I can make it, you can make it. And you need 8 cords about 5 yards in length. I'm using 4mm macrame cotton cords. And once you get your cords cut, you're going to divide them into 4 groups, 2 cords in each group like you see here. And you are going to take your right cord over the neighboring cord, and then that next cord over that last left cord, and then you crisscross in the middle, and then you do it all again and get it as tight as possible. Just lay it over, and it's very hard to describe, so I hope you can watch this video in detail. So you're laying the cords over the neighboring cords, and then taking the center 2 cords and crossing over each other, and then starting back at the beginning, right over left, right over left, center cords left over right. So again, the outside cord, right over left, right over left becomes center, left over right. Do that till you have about a 8 to 10 inch braid. The cords are very long, so they do get twisted at the bottom as you're braiding. And again, it is very beginner's friendly. You're actually using a square knot for the entire time after this braid is what I have figured out. It's just how you use your square knot. And I took out some elements in it just to make it a little bit more beginner friendly, but you wouldn't have to. Go over to marchingnorth.com. She's got a great tutorial over there that is also typed out. And it's marchingnorth.com. Fantastic tutorial. So you'll want to get this braid about 8 to 10 inches long, and then you'll fold it in half, and you'll see that here shortly. I am sure I'm probably not going to use the right terms. What you're going to do next is you're going to tie that off, so I call that binding. And you're going to take a separate cord that I cut about 22 inches long. You are going to place one end at the top, just like that. You're going to create a loop there, and then you are going to start wrapping very tightly around the base of the braid, leaving that top out and that loop out. So pull tightly around there. I found out, do not overlap your cord, so neatly just wind it down, and again pulling tight. And this cord was about 22 inches long. I think you could do it a little bit shorter, but I like the look of it. So now you are going to take that end, you are going to place it through that loop that you created, and then pull on that opposite side, and it pulls it snug right up in there. Just don't pull it all the way through. Just real snug. Now you can trim that end, and there should be another little tail at the opposite end, and trim that off. And we will then be ready to hang the macrame on a bar to start making our other knots. So here we are ready to make a square knot. So you're going to take those now 16 cords and group them in groups of 4 with their neighboring cords. So just the 4 that naturally kind of group together, and you will have 4 groups of 4 cords. I'm going to do my very best at walking you through all of this. So you have 4 cords. You are using the 2 outer cords of the 4, and the center cords are your carrier cords. So you're going to create like the number 4. So you create a loop with the outside. So there is your loop going over the 2 center cords, and then underneath that last cord, and then that last end cord comes up through the loop that you created with your left hand there. So pull it tight. Now create the loop with the right side. It goes over the 2 carrier cords and underneath that last cord. And I think I just got confused of what I did and messed it up. So it should have been the other way around. But now you will probably see, okay, she's going to do it with the right side over the 2 cords underneath that last one. That last one then comes up through the loop you made on the first starting side. So alternate that down. And see, I did it again. Oh, nope, this way. So one side, you're going to create the loop on the left. Then the next one, you'll create the loop on the right. So again, this time I should start with the right side. Oops, nope, I didn't. So if you create the loops all the way down on one side, then you are going to start a spiral effect. So that's why you want to alternate. So left, right by making that little loop of 4, going over then the center 2 loops. So let's watch it again. Make that loop, the number 4, go over the carrier cords, and then underneath that last one, the last one then pulls up through your loop. Let's see, do I do it on the right side this time? I do. So over and under and through. And there I'm probably trying to figure out, what did I do wrong? Only in the video do I see it. So I should start with the left, or am I going to go to another set of chords? I'm going to go to another set of chords. So we will do about 8 to 10 of the square knots there. And again, it should be create a loop on the left side, go over the 2 center carrier cords and up through the loop on the last chord, and then you do the opposite and repeat. So create the loop, go over the 2 carrier cords, take it underneath that last cord then comes up through that loop you created at the beginning. So here I'm just trying to decide how long I want my drop before I start my next set of knots. And this time we're going to create a spiral design. Again, it's using the square knot, and I decided I'm going to drop, this was 18 inches, and I don't like it as much. I did another one where I only dropped 12 inches, and I like it a lot better. So here I'm just going to go ahead and make a square knot. I'm going to drop down, so then those 4 cords will just be hanging straight down to this next set of knots. And so there, you're going to just start your next set of knots, and that is the same as you did in the previous sets, but this time you are going to keep making your loops on the same side. So I figured it was going to be easier if I went ahead and at least put 1 knot in, and this is girl measure. I just measure it by lining up the knots to make sure that they're all approximately in the same vicinity of as the other knot. And I'm only going to do about 10 or 12, and it'll just have a nice little spiral. And that's how I measure. Hasn't failed me. So again, when you make your spiral, you are going to always have the loop on one side or the other. So I obviously chose the left side, and so that creation of that 4 effect, and it goes over the 2 center carriers and underneath that last cord, and then that last cord comes up through that loop. And by keeping it on one side and not alternating back and forth, you're going to create a spiral effect in the cording. So you can kind of see it there just out of the 4 knots I may have already created. So I'm going to do that where I have 8 to 10 knots. And you have plenty of cord with this being 5 yards. So you'll do that on all sets of your 4 cords, or your 4 groups. Your 4 groups of 4 cords. There's lots of cords here and lots of length. Check out this nice spiral. Pretty good, eh? Here you will see how the flat stitch by alternating and the spiral by keeping it on one side. Okay, I'm going to see if we can do this a little slower. So take the loop, make the loop like a number 4, go over the 2 in the center, the last one will go under. Loop over, under, and the last one comes through. So we'll keep it on the same side. And then starting that twist. So take your loop over the 2 center, under the last one comes through. Make your loop over the 2 center, the last one comes through. Make your loop over the 2 center, under the last one comes through. continue to do this maneuver on the remainder of your groups of cords, and we'll see you at the next step. Okay, we about got those all wrapped up, and we're going to drop down and do the square knot again. We're just going to do 4 or 5 of these, and it's just like the first square knot we did at the very beginning. So let's try this again in a different angle. So you're taking 2 cords, we're connecting and creating that pot holder effect. So you're taking 2 cords from one set of 4 and 2 cords from the neighboring set of 4. And you're creating that square knot. So you're going to, and there I am measuring. So loop, go over the carrier cords underneath that last cord. That last cord comes from behind and up through your loop. Now this time we'll go with the right side loop, and the right side will loop over the 2 carrier cords underneath that last one. The last one comes from behind and up through that loop. And this is just where we have taken the 2 neighboring groups of 4 and we're tying them together. So 2 from one side, 2 from the other, and just doing that straight square knot is what I call it. I'm sure it's not the right, correct, or technical term, and you will see that we will then move on to the next set. But here, this is what it's looking like. So it's grouping it together, pulling it all together to create that net to hold your pot. So I'm sure I'm doing everything wrong, but it has worked for me where I just measure it out with the other knots and tie them up, and they are balanced and even. So let's walk you through that again. It's create the loop on one side, go over the 2 carrier loops underneath the last one. The last one comes up through from the back through the loop. And you're just creating this net holder effect to hold that pot, joining all the cords together. This truly is a beginner-friendly macrame. So if you want to feel accomplished and that you did something, I'm certainly sure that you can do this. So now that you have that, we are going to bind it at the end. So I'm going to drop down a few more inches and then gather it all together. So I have a cord that's about 22 inches long. I started with the end and then I created that loop, and then we're going to wrap tightly around, just layering your cord. Do not overlap. Layer it down side by side, your next cord, and then you will pull your end through that loop just like we did at the top. And pull it tight. There, you put your end through that loop and pull at the other end and cinch it up. And it'll pull right in there. Don't pull it all the way through. And now you can trim those ends off. And now you can cut your ends and display your plant. Enjoy. Please like, share, comment, and watch for more simple DIY tutorials from the Hive. I hope you were able to follow along. If you like this and like more, please subscribe. Enjoy.